Hello, Davey.
Good evening. Good evening.
How are you
Good
doing?
evening.
You all right? Oh, crash. It's all right. Just my
It's okay.
pet,
It's not. We're not live yet. It's fine. Go try again.
just my pet troll jumping out. It's the back of the
Just
shed.
now.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Wonderful that you can join us from all over the world. Keep joining us. Keep letting us know where you are. There's Joe and Orkney. That's fantastic. And let us know where you are, folks. And in the world, we always love to know that. And please hit the share button and keep sharing the show about. And also let us know what the weather's like where you are, because in Shetland tonight, it's nearly snowing. So if you hear rattling halfway through, it's just some haily shower. A haily shower. That makes me think of a neighbour I used to have where I used to live. And the fellow wasn't too into these too complicated, fancy new tunes that a lot of the boys can play. I'm just a bit jealous. I can't play them. But anyway, some of these new tunes. And he said, I didn't really like a lot of this fancy new tunes with hundreds of notes. He says, it sounds like a haily shower on a tin roof. So there we go. That was his definition of what it's all about. Hello, Carol in Dundee. Do you know that lady?
Afraid so. Only saw her 4 hours ago.
Yeah, you can't beat it when that's. Lizard, lovely. So many folk joining us tonight. That's snow lying in Bewley. Very frosty, says Maureen Ritchie. There we go. That's fantastic. Well, I want to do a wee quick thing. We've been very busy this weekend. The first fire festival's been on in Shetland this year at Scallowit. First one in 3 years. But I wasn't playing at this one, but I'm playing at most of the rest from now on. And then we've been up in Saxford today, and by jinx, it was cold and unst today. Certainly was that. So, anyway, Davey, it's another special day today, isn't it?
It is. Yes.
It's Amy, your wee lassie's first birthday.
It is.
And I'm going to play her happy birthday, and I can't just sleeping. But that's the wonders of technology. You can show her it in about 20 years' time and say, this was for you. There we go. Happy birthday, Amy. Because Amy's one, and Amy was born just a year ago. And
funny that.
Yeah, it's funny that. And she was, of course, born premature, wasn't she? And she ended up in the neonatal and 9 Wells in Dundee. And how long was she there for, David? She was there for quite a while.
8 weeks.
8 weeks. 8 weeks when she was born. And as a wee thank you, we've done a wee charity thing to raise some funds for the department. Wrote some tunes, and I wrote some tunes, and we auctioned them, and we managed to give the charity over £1,000. So that was really good. So 9 Wells neonatal got that face. So it was lovely.
That's a bit.
And you got a really nice letter and everything for them.
I did. Yes, and thanks so much to everyone that contributed financially.
Great stuff. Anyway, there was another. We thought about a wee set of tunes for tonight, and I made up a wee video earlier on, and I had seen some photos you'd put on, Amy, and it reminded me of a set I actually recorded a wee while ago, in that kind of West Coast style. And the first tune was a tune that you wrote for Amy, a jig. Mm-hmm. Was it just called Amy Hunter?
Amy Elizabeth Hunter.
Amy Elizabeth.
Sorry, Amy Isabel Hunter. My apologies.
Yeah.
Reading the wrong sheet.
Amy trying to get that right. Yeah, it's quite embarrassing that when you've children. I have the same, and they go and they stand in front of the doctor and they say, "What's their date of birth?" and you can't remember. Oh, that's not good. And then right, so brilliant. And the second tune, you found that out because I couldn't mind what it was, but it was Myra Green's tune, wasn't it?
Yep. Dave.
Remember it was? No, doesn't matter. No. And then the last one was one of yours as well.
Yeah, it's called Eyeless.
Eyeless. So keep sharing, folks. Here's a wee video that I've made up, and this is the Hunter family with Amy at highlighting Amy, and lots of Northern Lights and things like that, and shots that we've managed to get this year at the Northern Lights because Fiona, Amy's mum, really likes them. So here we go. done. Well done all. Well done all. Good.
Just had a message from Police Scotland.
Alright.
Apparently, there is a 4-foot tall, what's it say here? A 4-foot tall psychic released escaped from Barlinnie.
Oh, yeah.
They're looking for a small, medium at large.
Dear. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen from all over the world. I note we have, it was lovely, there's folk from Canada watching tonight. I noticed there's folk in Virginia in America. And I noticed there was folk in California as well. Fantastic. Great to have you all with us. Let us know when you are right through and keep sharing. Keep sharing. You're not be sobbing, Fiona. That's just... Yeah, well, one nice thing was, did you notice Edna Jaffrey's comment? She said that she looks fair like Fiona.
Yeah.
That's lucky.
No, it is. It definitely is.
Well, anyway, keep sharing, folks. This is brilliant. We're going to have a great show tonight. We've got a great guest for you, Charlie Todd, coming on, a friend of mine for many, 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 many years, in fact, since I started playing. And he helped me out an awful lot as we went through, as I was learning. So it's been a great mentor to myself. So I'm really looking forward to this tonight, just getting a chat with him. So I think we'll just bring Charlie straight on and have a blather. Hello, Charlie. How are you doing?
Good evening, boys. Feeling fine.
Good evening.
Good, good. Listen, Charlie, we've got loads and loads of folk tuning in here tonight. There's an enormous amount of viewers, so that's fantastic. They must have heard about you, or they've heard about Thanking or something. It's fantastic. So it's great to have you on. How's life? Good?
It's fine, yes. I spent the afternoon in at Clydesdale Accordion Club. It's just restarted, so that's Ian Catsman, the old Lanark Club. So
Okay.
had Nickel down as guests, so that was good.
Ah, good. Well, he would come. He would come cheap, of course.
Aye. Oh, absolutely.
Hello to Kenny Morris in New Zealand there. Fantastic to see you join us as well, Kenny. That's great. Any questions, folks, you've got a lap mind, put them in as long as they're reasonable and decent. We don't want any rude stuff on here. And that would be great. So, or anything you want to remind us of as we're going through the thing. I thought we'd start off with a wee set of tunes for Charlie playing the box first. This is a bigger accordion club, Charlie. You've been a bit involved with Bigger over the years as well. And Bigger were actually one of the clubs that was extremely active in lockdown. They'd done a lot of videos and things, which is fantastic because anything that we could do to keep our music alive just now is a great bonus. And the committee there seemed to dig in and got a lot of stuff out into the players that they have at the club. And this was one that you'd made. And this was the Stein song, because I think you're particularly fond of military marches and things, as we're about to find out this week.
I thought you were going to say was you're fond of German beer.
Probably is. But anyway, let's away. Here's the Stein song to begin with, and then we'll get into the chatting after that. fantastic. Lots and lots. What was that comment that we got in? The Stein song is the national anthem of the great state of Maine.
Apparently, I didn't know that. The full title of the tune is the Maine Stein song, and it was actually from Maine University. It was a drinking song for students. I thought it was a German tune, but it's not. And the Whistler and His Dog, I kind of assumed that might be German as well, but that's from, it was written by John Philip Sousa's lead trombonist. So they're both American cracking tunes.
Right. What a great start. What a great start to that. And nice to see so many folk joining. Keep your comments coming in, folks. The numbers are getting crazy tonight. Lovely to see that. Fantastic. Charlie, there's a lot of people hearing you for the first time here that's maybe not heard you before because they're all over the world. You and I, I've grown up. Well, you always kind of round about me, and as I said earlier, you helped me an awful lot when I was younger. But what about yourself? How did you start the accordion? Why did that come about?
Oh, the old story. My parents had accordions in their younger days, but never made much of it because we stayed in a very rural area. I still stayed more or less in the same place as my parents did. So they had actually sold the accordions long ago for money and bought a Valar heater, and in the good old days, a Valar heater, paraffin heater. And then my parents always had a notion of getting my brother Jim and myself started, and it took a while. I was 13 before I started, a bit late, to be honest. And went to Jeannie Brown. We both went to Jeannie Brown down in Wishaw, who was a great teacher, but she taught down the classical route. She wasn't really terribly interested in Scottish stuff. Although if I'd stuck in properly, I'd probably been a good player today. But I think I was with her about 10 years, and I could play some classical stuff reasonably well, but that's about as much as I could claim. And it wasn't much use. She didn't teach you to entertain at all. Right. And that was the weakness. She had some fabulous players. Davy Cormack from Hamilton was the star pupil.
Davy quite often watches the show, actually, and I was fortunate enough to meet him. I'd never met him before. He came to see me in the last tour when I was doing playing, and he popped into the Glasgow to see us at the gig, and then he started sending me up his CDs, and he's an incredible player.
Oh, tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. Alan Shute from Coatbridge was the other one.
Right.
He was one of the diploma students. They were tremendously good classical, and Davy moved over to the keyboard and formed a wedding band. So
yes.
Good time. Yeah.
So you obviously were a bit interested in the traditional side and the Scottish music and that. So where were you hearing that then that had perked your imagination to go?
My mum was quite interested. She had a few LPs, one of which was A Measure of Scotch.
Oh, wow.
Right. Aye, that was a good one. But the one I really liked, I suppose, was Andrew Rankin, because he did those recordings. He was playing Accordivox at the time, but Accordivox was a tremendously good accordion.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, George Darling on the drums, and George is still with us, fortunately. Yeah. But that was the sort of early inspiration. And then the radio, I was born in 57, so I probably started listening to the radio when I was 9 or 10, and it was pretty primitive stuff. But Ian Powrie was still in the country at that, he hadn't quite left for Australia for the first time, so there was a lot. I was
actually fortunate enough today. I got a CD the other day through the post from Alan Brown that plays the piano with Robert Whitehead, and it was an LP that Robert Whitehead and them made. I don't know how long ago now, but they'd forgotten about it altogether. Basically, it was country dancing, and I can't remember what the name they used for the second box player, but it was a funny name, and I was on to him. Said, what is this all about? And the lineup, it turned out it was Robert on lead box and Ron Ganella on the fiddle, Andrew Rankin on second box. But Andrew was signed to a different label at the time, so he just called himself a different name when he was on the LP. And Robert's brother on drums. And it's absolutely cracking. What a sound. It's just fantastic. And he said they basically went into the studio, sat down, played. There was no mixing and all that kind of stuff. But it's incredible. It sounds live because it is live. It was just a case of you sat down and played, and that was it. Mm-hmm. But very, very good.
I was always surprised when I did, I still do, write articles, but when I used to do articles for the Box and Fiddle, even Jim Johnson, I was surprised. Most of the guys, they didn't even bother to keep one copy of all the LPs they'd made. They didn't have a complete collection themselves.
I fall into that category. I haven't got most of the Fustro ones, so I haven't got any. I think we've done about 6 with the Fustro, and I haven't got any of them, I don't think. So.
No, You're all right, Peter. eBay's choked with them. They can't sell them.
That's right, they're all over the place.
If anyone wants to get rid of their copies, then send them to Peter.
Encouraging people. Yeah, anyway. Right, but brilliant. No. There's Alistair McDonald on from Canada there saying there was a great album with Andrew Rankin with the Cordobox. That's Alistair. I don't know, Charlie, if you remember, you took me to see the Wick dance band one night at Peebles Accordion Club. I can remember that when it was an ex-servicemen's club. And Alistair McDonald was playing that night. Alistair was in the box, and so was young Addie Harper, old Addie Harper, senior as well, and Isabel Harper. And it was fine. I met Addie just not long ago there as well, and Alistair and I keep in touch quite a bit across the pond because he's over in Canada now. But great player as well, great players. So, that was when we were lucky though, and I noticed you had a wee article on the other day and a picture about Alec MacArthur and the bigger club, and
yes.
And I remember going to that, and when it's obviously very fortunate now to have been in that era of time too. Whether it was the kind of tail end of the good days, if everybody talks about, I'm not sure, but it was stunning, that club, the atmosphere in the place. It was just jumping, you know, and it was just. And I think we were lucky to see that. You know, it's difficult to imagine that ever coming back to that stage again, kind of style thing. So. But great host he was when he kept it going. So, but yourself, you've been doing accordion, you've been doing drumming. You were a pipe band drummer as well to begin with. I think that's where that started.
Aye, of sorts. I started far too late. I was always interested, but I kind of started when I was 21, and it was really too late. I had a great tutor for a while. The boys, Willie Kerr was one of them, that you know from Colburn nowadays. But Willie and Jim Mulligan and John O'Leary were the three, and they were tutored by Bertie Barr, the number 2 drummer in Shotts and Dykehead Drum Corps with the great Alec Duthart. Yeah. So the tuition was there, but by the time you got to 21, you're a bit too late in starting, let's say.
Yeah, no, it's good though. It's good. We are going to have another wee set here. You've always enjoyed pipe music, as we'll talk about as well, but you're starting off with the Australian lyrics. I think this was used, guys, about 3 or 4 years ago down at Dumfries Accordion Club. Who's with you here? I think we've got Fiona on piano, haven't we, Fiona Paul?
Aye. Frank Morrison.
Frank Morrison and Ian Graham, I think.
Ian Graham. Yep.
Fiona was very involved with Tunes in the House in the last 2 or 3 years when we were doing that online collaboration stuff as well, and Frank as well. Actually, Frank got one of the highest viewing videos of all that whole series. Actually, he done it was a wee tune that we play up here, and the name of it went right out my head just now. I could probably play it to you, but I can't remember the name of it. It's a week in a Norwegian Swedishy thing, and it got away. It was mental. It was away with 60 or 70,000 views or something like that. It was just absolutely amazing. So it was that. But what have we got here? We've got the Australian ladies and you mind King George V. No?
King George V's Army. Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes called Kitchener's Army. Davey, do you know the history behind that one?
It's wrong.
I know the history behind Australian Ladies. I wasn't the composer.
Well, what was the Australian Ladies then?
Australian Ladies by William Ferguson. He was born in 1885. He's from Arbroath as well.
Just letting it dug in.
Willie Ferguson was interesting because, as you say, he was born 1885, but he served in the First World War. He was quite an old man. He was in his 40s. And then the Australian Ladies was written. There was as the name suggests, an Australian ladies pipe band did a tour of Europe and America in 1923, I think it was, to raise funds for the disabled Anzacs from the First World War. And he wrote that tune when they were over here. But it was a great pipe. He was in Gallipoli and so on. Terrible campaigns, but came through the war.
Fantastic. Here's the Australian ladies.
And before we go, give me a second, Peter.
Sorry, go on, get on with it.
A line here, he was pipe major of Clanmacrae, and it was said that the band was a prize-winning machine, and on the day of one of their cowl wins, Sir Harry Lauder was heard to exclaim, you would actually think it was one set of pipes and one drum that was playing.
Oh.
Here we go, Australian ladies.
fantastic. A big thank you, a big shout out to Elizabeth Morrison here, because Elizabeth sent us lots of videos of Charlie, because we were rather late in the day in getting a hold of Charlie. Somebody had to call off this week, and I just got in touch through the week, and we've organised this show really in a couple of days.
So,
but
quickly,
go on.
That second tune was written by G.S. McLennan.
Yep.
Composer of the infamous tune "The Jig of Slurs."
Mm-hmm.
And
The Jug of Slugs.
He says, "My Jig of Slurs I'm extremely proud of, not of course as a tune with a fine melody, but for its grand execution. I do not know a tune, pibroch or anything, which is nearly so difficult or requires such a nimble finger to play. The person who can play it through 2 or 3 times without missing a slur has certainly no cause to be ashamed of his fingers."
Fair point, because when you go into that third, fourth part, it's pretty difficult, actually.
Yeah, the G major.
Yeah, nasty. But anyway, so, Elizabeth, there's Elizabeth watching. That's fantastic. But a big thanks to Elizabeth, because she dug out and went away and found some of these in her computer. She said, "I've got some of Charlie," and that's when I was speaking to, because I was just checking. Elizabeth's got a great YouTube channel with lots and lots of videos on it, and it's actually a really good idea to video all this stuff, because otherwise it's lost and we'll never hear it, see it again. So big thanks to Elizabeth for that. That's no bother, and we'll take it with there. Frank, that was playing on that, Frank Morrison. You've known Frank for a long time as well, haven't you, Charlie?
Oh, aye, indeed. Not quite as long as Ian Graham and myself, the drummer there. Ian plays the accordion as well, of course. Great second box player and a good drummer, playing with a number of bands now. But I've known Ian since 1969. We both started Lanark Grammar at that point. And it'd be a few years later before I met Frank, when I started attending accordion clubs and so on. And Frank's a tremendous player. He knows tunes from memory that have been forgotten by little everybody else. Tremendous memory. Great variety of tunes. Well, in fact, we had him at the bigger club at the last meeting. And he always plays a really interesting programme, a bit of Scandinavian and a tune from Slovenia, I think it was. And tremendous.
Tunes just come right back to me. It's now Guarded by Atten, it's called. That was the tune he played, and it went viral. It went big. So is that, when you mentioned the accordion club, Sutherland, is that how you, did you kind of just suddenly think, oh, I'll go to an accordion club and see what's happening there, kind of style thing?
Aye. Right. Obviously, the bigger one, Alec MacArthur, he started in October 74. It was 78, late 78 before I started going. Right. And unlike yourself, you were a very early starter and you were never bothered with nerves. I was a late starter and I was crippled with nerves initially. Right. But you just to get on with it, and eventually you sort of master them. Never completely master them, but
I do get more nervous as I get older, especially in some situations. So if you don't feel 100% in control, you kind of start to get a bit shaky about it. Kind of thing.
Wait till you get to my age.
Yeah, I'm getting there. But it's. But I remember back in the days, and like say yourself, you used to come up and have a tune with me when I was just young. I remember sitting outside playing in the garden and things like that. And we would set up PAs and all that. Half a crop of John probably had us. But we'd sit there and then you'd show me some chords and I'd go away and practice them and then take it for there and take it for that. And it was great. But you've also helped a number of other players. I mean, like say Jason Dove. Jason's over in Denmark now, and Jason was big in tunes in the house as well. He was coming on with that one. And you had Jason as a youngster, but you also had Angus Lyon playing with you for a number of years. Angus is the piano player with plays and fiddles and things like that.
Absolutely, aye. In fact, Angus was he had just stopped lessons because Jeannie Brown, it was actually Jeannie's son Ronnie. Ronnie had taught Angus everything he knew. I mean, Angus was winning British championships, I think, on the classical side. Yeah. And he was about 14 and 3/4, and he had just stopped lessons, and yet
that was just the size of his feet.
Oh, that's right. Biggest feet I've ever seen. But, he was going to become a farmer. There was nothing else for it at that point. And then I phoned. In fact, I spoke to his dad because he was, as I say, he was only 14. I spoke to his dad and said, "Could I ask Angus to be my second box player? I'll come and collect him. Travel wise, I'll nip up the road and collect him." And that's where his career started, very modestly with the Cameroonian Ceilidh band as it was then. Aye.
Yeah. Cameroonian. We'll speak about Cameroonian in a wee while as well. We're going to have another quick track here. When I mentioned Elizabeth Morrison earlier on, this gave me an ideal chance to have a track with Elizabeth leading here, because you're actually playing the drums on this track. And it's a track from, is it Canterside Accordion Club you were at this one, is that?
Canterside, aye, that's right.
Canterside.
Stonehouse.
Right. Stonehouse, okay. So it's a wee Jim Johnson tune, and it's a polka called the Thingamajig Polka, as in the TV show that was on at one point. Can you remember that, Davey?
What, TV?
Yeah. The Thingamajig, the programme. Can you remember that? Yeah?
Before my time.
I thought it would be. Yeah. Okay. Right, here it is. Elizabeth Morrison leading with Frank, and I can't remember who was playing the piano in this one, but we'll find out as we go along. It's Alec. I think it's Alec, Ian's brother.
Alec Graham, aye.
And Charlie on the drums. So here we go. Enjoy the Thingamajig Polka. Fantastic, great stuff it was. Elizabeth put on that comment saying Thingamajig was my favourite programme when I was wee. That means I'm a lot older than everybody else as well, David. There you go.
According to Tinternet, it was the 70s and 80s it was on.
Oh, was it? Really? Well, time flies when you're having fun, you see. That's what's happening. Charlie, when I knew you were worked for Strathclyde, well, Lanarkshire Council, was it South Lanarkshire Council?
It was Strathclyde for many years then. South Lanarkshire from 96.
And of course, you were always working with figures, so that you ended up in lots of committees for different things, being treasurer, didn't you?
Aye, well, I was lucky enough to get early retirement 11 years ago. So I think at that point I was only on one committee, the National Association, as the treasurer. But I'm now in 12 committees. That's what happens when you're retired.
Just for all you folk out there worldwide, the National Association of Accordion and Fiddle Clubs. That's what Charlie was involved with for many years, and also the Box and Fiddle newspaper to begin with. You were involved with that, weren't you? When it used to be a real newspaper.
Aye, well, it was me that changed it to a magazine, actually.
Yeah.
It was much more easy. Postage and that was much more easy.
Well, it would be, yeah.
It was a sort of A4 affair in my day.
Yeah, I remember back in the old days, you used to go along and get your newspaper, basically.
I did it for 3 years. Unfortunately, I didn't change job. I changed job internally at work. And I was away up in East Kilbride, I think, and it was impossible just to continue. It was a complete change of the job.
But the association's done a lot of good stuff over the years, though.
Oh, very much so, aye.
in keeping
Aye.
stuff alive. And it's, I suppose, if anything, it's kind of trying times just now, because it's difficult to know where things are going just now. Because I noticed one of the things you said was you taught a bit of Cayley dancing and old time dancing, really, at the local bowling club, and maybe dying out a wee bit kind of style thing. And it's interesting because it seems to be in what areas of the country you go to as well, that some are a wee bit more healthy than others. And but it's difficult. The audience does seem to be generally getting a bit older all the time, and it's just.
Aye, well, we've got some new people in, which is really good. If people would only just try it, they'd really enjoy it once they actually come along. But trying to get them to try it's very difficult.
Well, I actually got a really encouraging phone call yesterday from the island of Fettler. That's the island between Yell and Unst, and they are restarted, and they open the hall every night. There's not many people in Ireland, there's only about 35, but they open their local hall every night, and they go and have a wee dance with 67 every night, and that's everybody's exercise for the day.
Exercise.
Enterprise. And they were wondering if we would come in and play for them, just to have some live music some Saturday night, you know. And it's a beautiful old hall. It's based on the hall. It was the same architect that built the town hall in Lerwick. It's got this amazing roof inside it. And Fettler was renowned at one point in time for being one of the places that people just danced, never stopped. And some of the musicians, I was hearing today, Brian was telling me, some of the musicians used to kind of think, oh no, because whenever they went to Fettler to play, they would have to play till 4 a.m. to the boat come out. And it was all reels and jigs all night though. It was all stuff like that. It was Lancers quadrilles. There was never hardly a waltz to be seen or anything. It was just flat out all night, and the folk just danced that way, you know. So, oh, there's Mr. Forrest watching tonight, Brian Forrest there watching. But yeah, so it's really interesting. But in dealing with these things, but other things have been involved where you were involved with the Biggar Museum as well, where I went to school for a while. Are you still involved with Biggar Museum?
Yes, I'm the treasurer of the Friends of Biggar Museum, which is a kind of ageing population as well, sadly. And I'm also occasionally in the front desk, which can be really interesting. It just depends who actually turns up to visit the museum. But you get all sorts of inquiries about genealogy and just local things. Yeah. My speciality is my home parishes of Carmichael, Pitnane and Thankerton. Yeah. So I'm a kind of local historian there.
Because I noted one you had with Carmichael the other day, you were talking about is it the McDermott Trust?
Hugh McDermott, the writer and poet. His wee cottage is up at Candy Mill. That's right.
Of course, he had a hideout up here in Shetland as well, on the island of Walser.
All right.
Hugh McDermott, he used to come up, and he used to. I can't remember. I read a wee bit about it once, and he described it as like a gulag in Siberia, without the Russians. I think that's what he said, something along these lines.
My brother Jim worked up in Shetland briefly, and he kind of thought the same then.
Yeah. But but it's interesting. And I noticed Mark Crawford watching us tonight as well. Mark's a button box player over at Fifeway. Do you still have a button box? Do you still have your Shan Marina? You had a Shan Marina at one time, didn't you?
I did very briefly. No, I've still got the Honor Gallic that you sold me.
Yeah.
You got me anyway. I've still got. I can still knock a tune out of it, but that's all I can claim to do. But I had a Shan Marino. I bought one for Bob McMath once upon a time, but it went to Jim Murphy down in.
What on earth is Mahjong?
It's a tile game, Chinese tile game.
Yeah.
All right, somebody knows you well. You're pretty good at Mahjong, apparently.
Aye, who was that?
Jim Fleming.
Yes. I met Jim recently. He stays up in Simonton. He's one of your predecessors. He used to play the pipes with Biggar Pipe Band. And he was also a chartered accountant up in Biggar. So, we overlap there.
I see. There we go. So, yeah, brilliant. Right, we're going to have a wee two-step this time. One of the things you've done is putting kind of collections together. We'll talk about that as we go along as well. And one of the wee collections you put together was all the kind of regimental tunes recently, wasn't it? The brass band, rather, stuff.
Yes.
And Light of Foot, it would fall into that category, I think, wouldn't it?
Aye.
Or would it?
Aye. Aye, it's an old style, Ian Holmes type.
Yeah. So we're going to have a wee listen. Get your dancing shoes on at 8, folks. Have a wee heuch round the house. And here's Light of Foot. fantastic. It's fair to say, I'm sure, that one of your main, a big interest to yourself has been the Scottish regiments throughout the years. And you've done a lot of research into that with the music, as well as, the history of, not necessarily music. What attracted you to that? Because you never actually ended up serving in the army yourself or anything like that.
No, not myself. But like many, one of my grandfathers, old Charlie Todd, was in the 1418 war. So he was not the local regiment, funnily enough. He joined the Cameron Highlanders initially in March 15, and then out in Alexandria in Egypt, he was transferred into the Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders, and they were on their way to Gallipoli of all places. So it was a case of lucky white heather. So he survived right through the war. He was 3 years in the Middle East and then a year on the Western Front, but he survived it, wounded twice, and lived to be 94. So I knew him pretty well, obviously, which many younger lads didn't get the opportunity to do. So, and then my dad was in the RAF during the Second World War, ground crew in Lancaster, and a ground crew fitter, an engine mechanic. So it kind of stems from that.
Mm-hmm. Just a quick comment that came in, and I meant to mention this actually. There was folk playing there. Fiona Paul was playing the piano, but there was two youngsters playing there as well, which has always been a huge part of your makeup. You've always involved youngsters playing all the time. I think one was young Finn Hope there.
That's right. And then on the early track, just to point out, he was playing the accordion. He was actually playing one of my Rankos, playing second box. And he was playing drums. He reminds me very much of you. He's only 15 at the moment. So he's going places, the young lad. Another lad there was Jim.
Tell him to get a real job and make lots of money then.
Well, it's great to see the youngsters coming along. I mean, there's far less to do. That's the only worrying factor. But the quality of musicianship nowadays is tremendous.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true, and I see that in Shetland as well. There's so many young musicians, but there's very little for them to play at. There's really no, and for some reason the accordion club format doesn't seem to just suit the youngsters just now fully. To be honest, they don't seem to be.
No.
I mean, when we used to go to accordion clubs, we used to sit glued to whoever was there all night, trying to steal good bits and whatever, and work out what they were doing. But that doesn't seem to happen just so much now. The youngsters tend to go play their bit and then disappear and things like that. It's kind of strange. Because it's no giving them a chance to build up their own individual style if they don't experiment and bits with everybody else's stuff, and you eventually come through. I mean, we definitely all go through a stage that we try to copy what we really enjoy listening to, but then you eventually just sit down someday and say, but this is me and that's just what I can do, and you just play after that, and that's but yeah, Finn. But great to see these young players like Finn coming through, and he's a great box player, and drumming now as well. So that's fantastic.
The more versatility, the better, because the more work you can get if you're multidisciplinary, I suppose you could call it. Like yourself.
Who was the other lad that was playing?
Jim Gold was in second there, I think.
Was that from Douglas?
Aye, yes.
Yeah. The Gold brothers. Here, David, yes. That's somebody we've never had in the show. We've never had the Gold brothers on. We'll have to get them on soon. That'll be like gold dust. That'll be a good one.
One of the early dances the Gold Boys did was actually the Carmichael Bowlers, and it was a really good dance. A small Carmichael Hall only held about 70, and it was maybe the first kind of serious dance for older folk that they played at, and right from the word go, they were really good because they used to ask questions: what tunes do we play for this? What is our tempo okay? And they've carried that right through. I mean, they can play the fast stuff if they want for students, etc., but they can play the serious for serious dancers as well, which I think is great because you're there to please your audience.
Yeah, absolutely. You must. I know it's Vi Todd asking there, Charlie, if you're still involved with the Grangemouth Festival. Are you involved with that one?
I just help out. I'll be on the desk. In fact, I saw Richard Ross at Lanark today, and he was asking if I'd go on the desk. So,
Vi runs her Kayleys on a Sunday afternoon up in Milnerthorpe.
Yes.
Perth there, and we played at one for her when we were down on the October tour. Davey came along and played the pipes actually that day as well, and it's smashing wee dance she has in the mill in the top town hall. It was
sprung floor and everything.
yeah, beautiful wee hall, and there's actually the burn. I didn't realise the burn goes right underneath the hall. It's built underneath, and I was like, oh. And she says, if you walk away yourself quiet at night, you can hear the water going.
It's not very good though, because if you're walking away and it's quiet, you need to pee.
Yeah, that's right. Probably want to be. But no, fantastic. And she had a great turnout that day we were there, and I think she gets a good turnout nearly every Cayley she's doing. And it's Elizabeth and Frank were there that day actually. They came along to say hello. And but it was a really, really nice afternoon. We thoroughly enjoyed it, and it just shows you though if somebody's there and willing to organise stuff and put the work in, folk will come as well. You know, but it takes that person to be there, isn't it, to really make it work, style thing. So this next wee video is a wee video I found online. Now you briefly mentioned there the Cameronians, the local regiment to our area. Let's have a wee watch. This was a wee video about when they disbanded actually. And we're not watching the whole video, but folks, if you go online, you'll find the whole video. It's on YouTube. You can find the whole thing. But we're going to have a wee listen to this. And one thing I want you to listen to, folks, is the pipe band. And I want you to listen to the speed that the pipe band's playing at, because it's not a mistake.
Peter, let's get this terminology correct. It's called a tempo.
Tempo, I know. Yeah, I know. You sound like a music teacher. Is that not what I do for a living? Oh, tempo, march speed. And dainty. Here we go. Well, listen to this.
In one day, this very day, the 14th of May, and in this very place, Douglas Dale in the county of Lanark comes without levy money. Here in the green lowland country of the Covenanters, who fought with immense courage and at great cost for the right to worship their Maker freely, each to the dictate of his conviction and his conscience. None was more daring than Richard Cameron, the Lion of the Covenant, a young preacher from Fife who was killed in 1680. His head and his hands were cut off and sent to Edinburgh. For 8 years after his death, his followers met and in secret held their services or conventicles in the hills. The killing years ended in 1688, when William of Orange came to the throne, and the following year, 1689, after a meeting here at Douglas, the Cameronians were formed into a regiment to support crown, religion, and national liberty. This was their first colonel, James, Earl of Angus, 18 years of age, son of the Marquis of Douglas. He points across to the Blood Mire, where the regiment was raised, with many of the tenants of these estates joining the ranks. And here it is that the Cameronians have come, almost 3 centuries later, to obey their last order and to disband. And before doing so, they will pay tribute to their founder here in this ground, around his monument, which now belongs to the Cameronian Association. It was erected at the end of the last century to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the Cameronians' origin. And here we see our first sight of the Cameronians on their last parade. One of the toughest, most famous regiments in the British Army. The Cameronians have since their beginning won for themselves an unsurpassed reputation as fighters. They fight as they pray, they said of the old Cameronians. They pray as they fight. Great numbers of them have lost their lives, but few or none of them ever yielded. In 1881, the 26th or Cameronian Regiment was joined by the 90th, the Perthshire Light Infantry, the Gravediggs, and became the Cameronians' Scottish Rifles. Their badge includes the mullet or star of the Douglas family and the trumpet of the Perthshire Regiment. It is the head of the Douglas family whose dark tartan they wear in their trews and their pipers in their kilts. It is the head of the Douglas family who will speak to the battalion here today, the present Earl of Angus, also Duke of Hamilton.
Now, folks, there's a wee bit of that video. If you want to go online and see the whole of that thing, it's really, really interesting. It's the area I was brought up in. My dad was a gamekeeper for Douglas and Angus estates. As you heard mentioned, Douglas and the early Angus. And my wee boy is actually called Angus as well, and that's where it came from. So, but really interesting that stuff there, Charlie. The Cameronians based there, and then they mentioned the Douglas tartan, of course, which is the tartan you wear when you're out playing with the band, when you've got the Cameronian tartan on. So I had big connections with that area. But so you have now become involved a bit more with society to do with the Cameronians, am I right in saying that?
Aye, just last year we joined the Cameronian Families Association. I've no actual direct connection with them other than staying in the right area. But you mentioned the unusually quick tempo of the band there, because this was Scotland's only rifle regiment, and if you think back to Waterloo, they were formed. Well, first of all, they were the first regiments to have rifles instead of muskets, which were much more accurate, but they were also for quick deployment on the battlefield. So they had this unusual 140 pieces to the minute instead of, I can't mind what the normal army, is it 90 pieces or something?
110.
110, aye, I'll go for that.
110, 112.
So 140 was considerably quicker. It was to get them round about the battlefield quickly and into place, where they were needed. So,
no, I mean that's incredible speed. It's some stamina to march about at that speed. I mean, that's just incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, that must be close to even the Gurkhas. They must have up there somewhere, aren't they? You're
exactly right, because the Gurkhas are rifle regiments. It's the same 140. Aye. And some of the Gurkhas wear the Douglas tartan as well. They had a close tie to the Cameronians.
Right. Yeah. And then you went out on a trip though to the war graves and things, didn't you? With the
Aye. Last year, there's, as I say, the Families Association. It's Linda and Joe McDonald are the Treasurer Secretary, and they organised a trip out to Normandy. It'd been in the planning. I came in late, actually. It'd been in the planning for, they gave themselves a full couple of years, and it'd been delayed by COVID, of course. But it's a lad, Adrian Smith, who stays through in Edinburgh, but he's close Rigside connections in this area. In fact, I was playing for Rigside Old Folks on Wednesday night there, and the lady I was sitting next to was his auntie, whom he visits regularly there. But he plans their itinerary. He's a real historian. I think he said he's got about 400 medals. He collects Cameronian medals and then researches the stories of the soldiers who won them and so on. So
fantastic. Rigside, that's the only place I've ever been done for speeding in my whole life. And stupidly enough, I had the band down with me, and we were driving through the place, and I was even telling them at the point in time, this is a place where a lot of folk get stopped for speeding. Whoops.
Yep.
Well, there we go. So yeah, but really interesting stuff, and to think that all these regiments, local regiments, in a way were about, at one point in time was just fantastic, and obviously had their own bands and everything. I mean, it's quite amazing. It's great.
Well, they used to say the training depot for the Cameronians was at Winston Barracks, which you'll know quite well, just outside Lanark.
Yeah.
And they used to say the laird at Carmichael, he used to occasionally, every couple of years, he would organise a day for all the school kids in the area from the Carmichael, well, basically what was the Carmichael estate and beyond. He owned Thankerton and he owned Pitnane as well. So all the school kids were brought in, and he would need a pipe band. So he'd either get Douglas Water pipe band, which existed at the time, or he would phone up the Cameronian barracks and say who he was. Sir Wyndham Carmichael Anstruther, could I borrow the Cameronians pipe band just for such and such a day and get them bussed out?
Yeah.
So, it's a bit of cloud.
What's Mr. Monroe saying about the tempos?
The cop saying your tempos went quick.
Excellent, great. Right, let's have another wee tracky music. This is one of you on the drums again, Charlie. This you're at the Accordion Club here again, accompanying a young fellow called Liam Stewart. Now, Liam, I don't think we've had Liam on the show ever before or after, but I did meet him in Glasgow the last time I was down. He came to a gig to see us, and so it's fine. So this is a wee set with some jigs and reels this time. Liam playing some jigs and reels. So enjoy. Charlie's thinking, when did I do this? I can see that look in his face that he can't actually remember this one. So we'll see what happens. I think you stopped and started in the right places, so it's okay. It's fine.
Here we go.
Fantastic. Well played. That's something, one of the nice things with the accordion clubs as well, is you get to go along and have tunes with anybody and folk you wouldn't normally have a tune with or something like that.
Oh, aye, totally. And just as we've been discussing earlier, I mean, Liam's a product of two things. One's good tuition, great tuition from Ian Muir, and the other one's the accordion club scene, because his grandfather helped Derek Hamilton run the Galston Club. And
That's
of course,
right.
his dad, Bobby, is a keen player as well, a great player.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's where I met him first, when his grandfather was running the club over at Galston. I remember playing there one night.
aye, Billy, yep.
But yeah, super player, very in control when he's playing, that's for sure. But great stuff to see. Now, one of the things you're very interested in, Charlie, and so are many people reading your articles, but you do a lot of articles and kind of archive work for the Boxing Fiddle. And listening to Liam's last set there, of course, he started with Bonnie Dundee. Now, I wonder if you could tell the viewers out there a bit about Mark Crawford. Will like this story because he's a Jimmy Shand fan. But you did a big article on Jimmy Shand, didn't you, at one point in time as well?
Did I?
Aye. Did Jimmy Shand not come and see you after it?
Oh, that was about old Jimmy Edwards. Aye, that's right.
Oh yeah.
Aye, Shan Marino #1. Aye, wasn't he directly about Jimmy as such?
Right,
But,
right.
Jimmy had ordered the first 4 Shan Marinos. That's right. Ian Cruikshanks is the expert on this, but aye, and old he didn't want to sell them to the top players because there were too many of them. There were more than 4 the Jimmy Blues in this world. You know, there was more. So Jimmy Shan, being a diplomat, thought, well, I'll sell them to the sort of regional, let's call them the regional players. So he had taken them down. I think he took all 4 to old Jimmy Edwards down in Moffat, and sat them down and says, right, Jimmy, pick one. And by sheer coincidence, he picked #1 because they're all numbered on the inside, of course.
Right. Yeah.
So that's right. And I did an article. It was one of the earliest. It was done in a word processor thing, an early one. And I posted it up to Jimmy Shand. He wasn't Sir Jimmy, I don't think, at that point. And heard nothing for weeks. And then he turned up on the doorstep. And thankfully,
which is a fair old distance for where he lived. I mean,
well, he had a friends down in Moffat. It was down in Moffat. And he was on his way down there, and he called in because he had Anne, his wife Anne, and son David, I think, were both in the car.
really?
So he just popped his head in, and that was great.
See, there we go. We've got Bruce Lindsay Jr. has just got #3 out of the 4 Simpsons books from Dundee. There we go. That'll get them all good. But yeah, it must have been interesting doing articles, and you would have found out things though about people that you didn't know over the years, different players.
Oh, totally. It's a wonderful experience because you can ask questions that you would never normally. You don't interrogate somebody when you meet them briefly at an accordion club, but you can interrogate them nicely and ask all sorts of questions about their background and tune titles and all sorts of things.
Was there any particular celebrities in the dance band scene then that you did enjoy particularly interviewing?
I've certainly done quite a few over the years, and they've all been thoroughly enjoyable, to be honest. Jim Johnson, such a nice, down-to-earth guy, and obviously a wonderful player. He was the one. I mean, I'm very conscious when I'm playing. I've got a facial expression of grim death, and Jim was the one who said.
But I notice you always smile at the end once it's over.
Aye, the relief, yes.
Relief.
I'm certainly not a recording artist. I mean, most of the videos we've been watching, it was Keith Dixon was the mastermind behind all the technicalities of that. So, no, to play a piece from end to end when you know you're being recorded, you guys find it pretty easy, I imagine. But no, that was over in Fiona's wee studio at the back of the house in Carnwath, with Fiona on the keyboard myself. But trying to play it correctly all the way through.
It's funny. It's a strange thing, isn't it? But you can play things no bother at all, though, and then when the red light goes on, as we talk about in the recording studio, suddenly it becomes a different ball game altogether, and there's total natural state. But I even found we done a broadcast there about 3 or 4 months ago, and we just happened to be down, so we said to Jennifer Cruikshank, take the floor, we were coming down, and she said, "Great, come in, I'll record you." And I hadn't done one for about 10 years since I'd done a live one up here. And when we came out, we were absolutely shattered, just knackered, because you're having to sit and suddenly think so hard about what you're having to play. In fact, you almost start overthinking. And when you're so used to just sitting on a stage and playing and watching the folk dancing and things like that, and if you make a mistake, it doesn't really matter, kind of style thing. So,
that's right. Yeah.
I actually heard Ian McPhail doing a wee bit of an interview the other night on one of the dance musics, and he said he preferred, if he was doing a broadcast, he preferred to do a live one rather than a recorded one. He found recording studios very artificial, and he preferred warts and all. He said, warts and all, get out there and play live, because that's how you would play at a dance. You know?
Aye, true, very true.
It makes total sense. You know? So,
We shouldn't. You're right. We shouldn't be worried about the odd mistake. I mean, it makes no difference. Alec MacArthur was the classic example of that. I mean, tremendous, tremendous music, but had more than the odd wrong note occasionally. But
he used to relish in claiming he had held the record for the most mistakes in a live broadcast or something.
That's right.
But everybody still thoroughly enjoyed the broadcast. That was the thing.
Aye. And then he said he lost his record twice inside a number of weeks because there were a couple, I won't name them, but there were a couple of very rough broadcasts.
Right.
He said he temporarily lost his title.
Was it Peter?
It wasn't me. Don't start. It wasn't me. We're going to go back to another wee military one here. It's the Washington Post we're going to have this time. And I love the wee bit of video here when the Washington Post comes up at the beginning with the moon landing, because my wee lass Grace is just crazy about space. I think it's with Mum working at this spaceport up at Unsteer and rockets going about and all that kind of stuff. So she'll be impressed when I show her this one. Well, hopefully she'll be impressed. There's not much impresses her just now, actually. She's about 9-year-old, and it's just, that's the way it is. But what's up, Washington Post? Here we go. Lovely stuff. Really, really good. Lovely. Fiona's a lovely pianist as well. She's got lovely harmony stuff coming in there. There's really lovely harmony notes coming in.
Aye, she really is.
Really
She
solid.
studied piano quite seriously in our younger days, and then up to, I think, maybe grade 8, I'm not sure. But and then during her working life for 40 years, she never touched the piano. And then it was when she retired, came back to it, and she's an all-rounder, really good.
And then Ian there, of course, as well. Ian Graham, when we were down, we stayed with Ian for a night. Andy Kane and Ian are great pals, and we stayed with Ian one night. But he arrived late back because he'd been playing with Charlie Kilpatrick somewhere or something like that. So.
Yeah.
Is that the night that Andy Kane slept in the drawer?
Davey thinks this is amusing. As you know, we like to tease Andy about his heightage. Yeah, it was, and there was other stuff in the drawer as well. Right. Never mind. But yeah, great fun doing all these things. One thing I wanted to speak to you briefly about. This is going to cover a lot of topics here because you've been involved local history. We've spoken about that a wee bit. But you've been involved with a couple of publications of books and things as well there, and collecting stuff and bits and pieces.
Aye. I didn't even know local history existed in a sense. I did all the stuff at school that we all do about European history and Napoleonic Wars and all that sort of stuff. And it was about 2001, my wife, for a Christmas present, she gave me a book done by a local chap, Willie Fleming, from Lanark now, but he was at Warrenhill Farm at Carmichael originally, a retired farmer. And he had put together this book on Carmichael, and he brought together all the local sources of the old parish statistical accounts and various other things, and where there were gaps for the school and the kirk and that. Himself and a chap called Alec Lamb had written chapters on that, and it was really, really informative, really good. And I mean, Michael goes away back to days and nights, on horseback and so on. It's quite amazing the amount of history and the famous people that have, one or two have come from there. So I started collecting photographs, and I collected them from the people, the elderly folk who knew the stories, black and white photographs. Got the story, the who, where and when, which is usually lacking, and I collected about 2,000 of them over, just scanned them back over a period of about 8 years. Right,
wow. Well, I think it's fair to say that you are a bit of a collector, because all the years I've known you, there's been bits of regimental uniforms and all sorts of things turn up. And I remember you played at, was it Kenya you went out to every year and played for a number of years? You played at the St Andrews night out there, didn't you?
I was lucky enough. It originated because back in 1992, the chieftain of the Kenyan Caledonian Society actually came from Westmahago, and it was actually Ian Clark from Netherburn, is it, near Lark Hall. He got the gig the first year, but he was involved in a road accident the second year, so I kind of inherited it. And I took various guys out. Jason did it for quite a number of years. Yeah. But that was great because there's British Army training grounds up in northern Kenya, so quite frequently there was a full regimental pipe band out there with the Scots Guards, with the King's Own Scottish Borders, with the Gurkhas one year. They were tremendous. They were really entertainers. But
I remember, and talking about you collecting all the postcards and the photographs and things, and I remember one night staying at your house at some point in time and coming down in the dark and coming across something, and it was one of your collected items for Africa when you'd been out there. It was, I don't know what it was like some kind of hairy wizardy thing hanging on the wall, and I mean just about dying one night coming across. And then Charlie says she would turn around the corner and there'd be a sword for some sort of regiment next to it or something like that. You just never knew what was going to happen. But I suppose you collected a fair bit of the African stuff over the years that you brought back home as well, didn't you?
Aye, well, we were out there for about every November for about 20 years, and I loved the stuff. But Chrissy, over the past, it's 11 years since we last did it. It was Ian Graham and Richard Smith and myself. I was on drums latterly, but sadly we lost it 11 years ago. So, and over the intervening period, Chrissy's been gradually, let's say, whittling down the collection.
All these bits and pieces. Yeah, it's great. It's good how it goes. But we were away. We done quite a few trips as well. We were away in Norway when I was just young. We done 3 weeks over there, and then we done a trip to Poland. I remember us going to Poland for a while as well. And all good fun. But you done a lot of these Scottish dance trips abroad. You were in a fair lot of them, more than me anyway.
Well, I think when you moved away up to Cardridge, I kind of inherited New Scotland and did quite a lot of their European stuff.
Yeah.
And there was other spin-offs. William from Bewley, who's that?
Crawford, yeah.
William Crawford. I went out to Japan with him. Aye.
Yeah.
Various things cropped up.
Yeah, that looked like an interesting one, the Japan one. So,
aye.
Yeah.
Lovely,
We're going to run another wee track here. You hitting something earlier on. I don't know what you're like, but I nowadays I'm very much of. You said you have to play for people and you have to play for dancing and tempos and all that kind of stuff. You were meaning about some of the younger bands. I'm a bit like that even now with tunes. If somebody asks me for a tune and I know it, I'll play it for them, even if I'm sick to death of it and would rather not play it again, because obviously they've asked for it because it means something to them. It's a tune that's meant something to them. So, you get asked for the big old populars all the time. And some folk go, oh, I'm not playing that. I've played that for years. Well, I'm afraid I just play it now because that person goes home happy that they've heard the tune they wanted and things. And this next two tunes is getting a wee bit, well, the next one, the Crack at Clashmore Hall, some of the boys are now starting to say, oh dear, that's that tune again, the Kiwi Pipers. But the audience loves these tunes, so I think it's really important to play these kind of tunes when you can. So
unless it's Highland Cathedral.
I knew you were going to come in with that one. What happened to the Highland Cathedral too? Mind they were writing a sequel to it or something?
They've got it. It's out.
Is it any good? No.
It's not as good.
It's not as good. Right.
It's not as good. We'll just say that.
The sequel. But what we're going to hear is actually it's a wee track where you're playing another chord somewhere else, but you're playing along. You're playing the drums this time with Ronnie Eason, and June Nickel, I'm going to call her, but she's not Nickel now, is on fiddle. That I was at school with.
Aye,
Meikle's her surname, yes. June on fiddle. June and I were in the same primary school at Crawford John right through school together. And she went to Kenny Wilson for fiddle lessons for a long time. And Derek Hamilton, the late Derek Hamilton's on the piano here on this track as well. And yourself and drums. And a great miss, Derek, because there used to always be a total bit of crack whenever Derek came on. You would always get a discussion anyway. That was for sure. But this is a wee track. It's the Crack at Clashmore Hall and the Kiwi Pipers, and I'm sure the folk at home will love this one. When I was speaking to Elizabeth yesterday, Elizabeth Morris, and she was saying that Derek Hamilton always used to say, keep recording stuff because you never know when you'll need it. And there you go. We've had a show tonight, and there's been a lot of Elizabeth stuff that you can put together. So it is important, I think, if folk do record stuff, and then we can always hear what's happening. If Andy's looking for stuff to listen to, another avenue, Elizabeth's actually got a YouTube channel, and she's got loads of videos on it, and she's got loads of followers, so you can jump onto YouTube and look for, I think I found it under Elizabeth Morris and Accordion, and you can subscribe to her channel, and she's got loads of stuff on it, all different artists all over the place, so there's a wee bit of research material for you, for folks out there to go and have a listen to.
Nice.
Charlie, any plans for the future?
No, just plod on. I quite enjoy life. Plod on with all my committees and accordion clubs. Attend as many as I can, really.
Yeah.
And
Any projects under the belt thinking about? Or?
There's a couple of things for the National Association that are on the go, but see how they develop. Yeah.
Okay, so you're keeping busy. Listen, all we can do is thank you extremely much for coming on, especially at late notice. It's been fantastic having you in the show. There's been loads of people watching this tonight, and loads of people really enjoyed it. There's a lot of nice comments coming in saying how they've really enjoyed the discussion tonight. So that's just brilliant. So thank you so much to yourself for coming on tonight. And all the best to you and to Chrissy as well. Say hello to Chrissy for us.
We'll do it.
And say hello to Jim if you see him sometime.
Aye. And as we've said earlier, a big thank you to Elizabeth Morrison and to Keith Dixon for all the clips, because if it had been left up to me, there wouldn't be anything.
Well, it's absolutely brilliant. And we have got one to play out on here. We've got March to the Stars, which is a fantastic tune. I think the first time I got this was Music for You, and I played it on my first broadcast, and I think it was Jim Johnson, I think, was the first I heard really playing it.
That's right, yeah.
But fantastic tune. So, Charlie, thank you so much for coming on. Great, and we'll speak soon. Take care, good health, and we're going to finish off with March to the Stars. Thanks again. Thank you.
Thanks, boys.
Cheers, mate. Cheers. Fantastic.
Appreciate that.
Big, huge
What
thanks
can we
to
say?
Charlie for coming on there. Really interesting interview tonight. Hearing what a musician that's playing away at music, but all the other things he's interested in as well. It's really
Yeah,
interesting. Really cool.
really nice to touch on the history of the Cameronians as well.
Yeah, really good. Yeah. Lots and lots of people. There you go, Vi Todd. If you're looking for somebody new to play at your Cayley dance, give Charlie a phone sometime. It's not that far for Lanark to Milnathort. Well, not neighbours far for Vi. Does she not rake away up to Fraserburgh and all sorts of other places?
Yeah.
Well,
I've been doing that.
anyway, brilliant, fantastic. So, really enjoyed that. Great. Now, and as I say, Charlie helped me out so much when I was a youngster. He used to buy me instruments and let me pay him back and all that kind of stuff. Very, very nice. Actually, the so-called pipes, the pipes that you fancy, Charlie helped me out buy them at the time. And now they're all done up again. I don't know if Charlie knows that actually, but we got them all done up, Charlie, if you're still on, about December there. They were getting done up by Derek Marr, and they're looking absolutely stunning. And you had about 3 folk wanting to buy them at the time we were there as well. So it's really nice. Anyway, that was good. Right, next week, folks, we will be here. We will be here again. And the week after.
No. Right.
What?
Let's. Just 2 seconds. Make sure you can check the calendar. Right, that's right. That's next week. So we'll go to the 29th first, which is not next week. The following week.
The following week. It's up Helier week in Shetland, and I'm playing that night. And what we thought we might do is do the show live for my gig. Why not? Let's live dangerously.
What's the worst thing that can happen?
The worst thing that can happen is folk might enjoy themselves. You know, that's the worst thing that can happen. We'll be playing in the lounge bar. We're playing in the lounge bar in Shetland, which is a world-known venue for folk music and dance music. Way back in the old days, that's where Ronnie Cooper and Willie Hunter and the Haimfarers used to sit and play. And we're playing in there that night. So what we thought we'd do is we'll bounce it back and forward and see what we can do, will we? So we'll just have some live.
I might get some videos lined up for that one.
Just in case it all goes wrong. Well, listen, we've done one. We had the boys on for the Bronx in New York, and we did a whole thing for them. So surely we can manage one for the Lounge in Lerwick. It is the night before up Helier, so spirits will be pretty high. I would imagine.
Expensive too.
Viola says a live gig for Shetland sounds fantastic. Right, we'll see what we can do. As long as my boys don't want paid a lot, that'll be fine.
I'll pay the toll.
I'll pay the toll, exactly. There we go. Right, so that's that. But next week, next Sunday, we have the one and only fantastic young fiddler Ryan Young coming on. Mm-hmm. Now, Ryan has won just about every award going already, and he's not old at all, is he? I mean, he's just still a youngster, so I'm really looking forward to him coming on. We've got lots to talk to Ryan about, and he's doing really, really well for himself. I watch him on Facebook, and he's touring here, there, and everywhere. So we're very fortunate to have Ryan come on. So we've got some fiddle music for you next week, folks.
Yep.
Fantastic. And then Brian Forrest is saying, in the lounge, you'll need to get unidirectional mics. Aye, right. We'll just be playing, Brian, and you'll just have to put up with it, and that's it, I'm afraid. We'll just have to see what happens.
Just so to whet folks' appetites, the first gig in February, we have a Gaelic singer.
Right. First gig, who have we got coming on the first week in February?
We've got Norrie McKeever.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Skippinish.
My goodness. Skippinish. He was formerly Man Ran and formerly, was it, who was it? Bodega. Yeah, Bodega he played with. That's right. So, folks, we've got plenty coming up for you in the future.
Oh, yes.
So, thank you very much for tonight. Davey, go and see the birthday girl.
She's sleeping. Going to bed.
She's getting teeth, she'll maybe not sleep that long.
She's got a tooth already.
Yeah.
Looking through.
anyway, enjoy. They get old quickly. So,
Really my jokes.
yeah. Right, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. See you next week. I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks very much to Charlie Todd for tonight. That was a great wee interview. And see you, Davey. See you soon. Right. Bye, folks. Take care.